Chapter 19. Nowhere. Story again is told by Joseph. It's bad news, I'm afraid, son, said Ba quietly. We were standing in the marketplace. He'd greeted Mary with a touch on the arm and handed her a cake of dried figs to eat. You're tired, you should sit down, he said, then pulled me away a few paces. She was tired. I could see, more tired than I'd realized. The baby was heavy inside her now. She was stooping with the weight of him. The birth could be any day now. But my father looked almost as haggard. There's nowhere for you to stay, he told me. What? Nowhere? But what about Uncle Ram? He shook his head. He hears rumors about your brother. People are saying Josiah's a murderer, that he's hiding out somewhere. They're making him out to be some big important rebel. He laughed bitterly. Josiah. And your uncle has heard about it. He hesitated, his gaze flicking to Mary. Well, they don't want us. Anyway, all too much trouble, Ram said. These are uncertain times. Uncertain times, I said, but Ba, I gestured at Mary, who was already on her fourth fig. She was shifting around uncomfortably, one hand rubbing her huge belly. As far as I'm concerned, there's one very important certainty, I told my father, which is that Mary is going to give birth soon. I know, he said unhappily. I'm sorry, son, it's not just the census, you see. It is the fact that it's Passover next month. It's a big festival, and it has to be taken seriously. Ram has a big house. He can't afford food for extra guests. Lamb isn't cheap after all. He stuttered into silence, looking unhappy. I wish there was something I could do. I couldn't believe it. Were they just going to abandon us? How were we going to find somewhere to stay in a strange city? I hardly have ever been here further than Sepphoris before. And Mary was in no state to wander around endlessly, knocking on doors. Where are you staying? It was all I could ask. He wrung his hands. We found a little place, but it's expensive and there's no more room. Honestly, Joseph, you better be off somewhere else. You need somewhere more comfortable, more permanent. Your ma says the same. But you haven't managed to find us anywhere? I ground my teeth. How long have you been here for? It's been difficult, he answered sheepishly. Everywhere it's full. But I'm sure, he added more brightly, when people see Mary, they find space. They take pity on her. He looked round at her, and she gave us a wobbly smile. Then he patted me on the arm. Good luck, son. And he walked away. Knock, knock, knock. Any space? We've come for the census, and my wife is... Sorry, said the woman at the door, not here. Knock, knock, knock. My wife is pregnant, I began. We need a... No room here, scrawled the man who answered. Knock, knock, knock. Please, will you give us a room? What do you take me for? Screeched the apron-clad woman who lived in the latest house. We are not an inn. And then she slammed the door shut. Mary gave a little moan. She'd given up walking now and was sitting on the donkey, tight-lipped, pale-faced. She looked even more miserable than I felt. Let's try my uncle again, I said. They'll just say no, she muttered. But she didn't argue, as I led Joachim back the way we came. I had fond memories of my Uncle Ram's visit when I was a child. of me and Josiah chasing him around the fields and up trees and bashing him with a little toy sword. He'd made us. But the uncle whom Mary and I had found in Bethlehem seemed like a different man altogether. His cheeks weren't rosy anymore. They were creased and pitted like a peach gone bad. And his eyes were as hard as stone. "Word is you traveled here with a bunch of known rebels," he had said to me when we tried his house earlier. "And with your brother being what he is, I'm surprised at you, Joseph." "No," he held up his hand to forestall me. "I'm not accusing you yourself, but you need to be more careful. Everyone knows the forest is bursting with plots against the king. You're an idiot, if you haven't noticed." He paused and wet his lips, ready for another attack. "And that woman, Joseph, perhaps if you didn't have her with you, we'll let you in, but really." "She's my wife," I sputtered angrily, glad that Mary was out of earshot. "Exactly," he countered. "By marrying her, you've shamed us all. My family and I want nothing to do with you." So yes, Mary was right. He had been pretty clear. But after several hours of fruitless door knocking, I was desperate. Sure, it was worth trying again, and I had a new idea of how I might persuade him. "Please," I cried to my uncle's wife, pulled the door open for a second time. "Listen to me." She hesitated. "Our family takes its line from King David himself," I gasped. "And before David there was his great-great-grandfather Boaz, who married Ruth." I was breathing heavily. "Ruth was a foreigner and had nothing to do with anything. She wasn't part of our people. She was an enemy practically." I held up my hands. "You know the story? Why should she have been accepted? Yet she found a place among God's people. She was welcomed here in Bethlehem, in your city, by your husband's ancestors. And the Lord God looked on her with favor, and she had a son, and he had a son, and he was Jesse, the father of David, and David became God's king." My uncle's wife was staring at me, her mouth open. "My wife," I breathed, "is very heavily pregnant, and we need somewhere to stay. I beg you, be like Boaz. Be like the Lord God himself. Be kind to us. Give us a place." "Look," she said weakly. But then my uncle barreled up behind her, and I knew there was no hope. "How dare you to come back here," he said. "Get out, now." I had no choice. I stood back. The door slammed shut, and I heard the bolt thud into their sockets. I pressed my forehead into the wood. "Please, Lord," I muttered. "Please, please, please." Then I heard a voice. It came from the other end of the street. "We got room," it said, "if you don't mind the cow." I turned in her directions of the voice. Then I heard Mary begin to yell.